family home. My mom lives in Las Vegas, cousins, aunts, uncles. It's good to be here to talk to a lot of students about our RISE tax credit. It really is about focusing on a plan that would give about half of Nevada workers an increase by massively increasing the earned income tax credit, and a lot of other great ideas. But I suspect there might be some other things in the news that you all want to talk to me about that have nothing to do about economic policy and empowering workers, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can we just get a reaction to the Mueller report and kind of all the findings that were inside of it?
Well, I think we're seeing clearly that this report is not reflective of the spin that our Attorney General tried to put on that report. That there's a lot of substantive things there that do not exonerate the president from potential criminal activity. And I think it's something that we need to research more, and that's why on the Judiciary Committee I'm going to be calling for Mueller to come testify.
Do you think that Democrats like yourself running for president or there's any risk of overemphasizing the report on the campaign trail?
I think we need to stop casting it in partisan terms. I think we have a president who has had a number of people around him, from his campaign side to even his administration, be indicted and convicted. I think we have Russians who are, as the report shows, trying to influence our elections. All Americans should be concerned about these things. We have a president that clearly, in more than 10 cases, having independent investigators say that these things could have been obstruction of justice. And I think that you have a number of times that we saw a campaign have contact with, even if it didn't amount to collusion, but substantive contact with Russians or Russian affiliated individuals. So this is serious things, and we should continue the investigations that are necessary to get to the bottom of it. It should not be cast in partisan terms.
Senator, in your statement today, you really slammed Barr. You said that he, was acting partisan, and so your fellow candidate Eric Swalwell, along with some other people in the House and Senate, have called for Barr to quit. Do you agree that he should quit?
Again, I'm not at that point yet. I think that what he's been doing has been clearly showing himself more to be a not independent person, but more like Trump's lawyer, which is not the position that he has sworn an oath to do. So I have some very serious concerns, but I'm not at that point yet.
Do you think the redactions in the report were appropriate?
I have not read the report myself cover to cover yet, so I want to hold reaction to that until I can get a point and read it all the way through.
How much of it have you read?
I've read a lot of the excerpts that talk about some of the things I've already read.
Do you think there should be a conversation about impeachment right now?
No.
Why not?
I think right now we should continue this investigation. I think Mueller should come before and testify. I don't think we should be having that conversation. I think we should still pursue the facts, and I think this report, which was just released this morning, I think we should all be reading it. I think we should have a chance to ask a lot of questions and continue investigations and see where they lead.
But not take it off the table?
Again, if a president violates the law and does the things the Constitution and our founders think they should do, of course it should be considered, but I'm not at that point yet. And I think what we should be talking about is continuing this investigation.
Senator, what have you heard thus far from Democratic voters out here in the field regarding what they're worried about most about this presidency and how they're approaching the rule of law?
Well, first of all, I think voters are talking most about issues that concern them and their families. Mm-hmm. Access to health care, jobs that pay a living wage, access to affordable housing, public education and the quality of public education. These are the concerns I'm hearing most about. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've had a question yet from an actual voter, and I've been in Iowa now and Atlanta, and now here. I haven't had a question yet about the Mueller report by anybody but people in the media.
Do you think voters are tired of it?
I don't have any conclusions about that. I think it's just an interesting thing that when people really are talking about the 2020 election, what they're bringing up is not the Mueller report.
Can I ask you, how was your meeting earlier today with SEIU?
It was an incredible meeting. It was a very robust and substantive conversation about practical things we can do to help Nevada workers. And we talked about a lot of the ideas I have, but even more than that, I mean, somebody who ran a city, New Jersey's largest, through economic crisis, a city that is majority minority, a city that had been struggling until my leadership in the coalition Brazil, with 60 years of population decline, 60 years of losing tax base. I was able to offer them a lot of very practical things that I can do as President of the United States, not just for cities, but also for rural areas and other communities where people feel like they're being economically left out, working harder and harder, but still being left behind, not doing better than their parents are, feeling insecure because of inadequate health care, high-cost prescription drugs, or even some of the issues we just talked about around a broken criminal justice system that seems to overly target vulnerable populations.
We have time for one more question.
Senator, speaking of criminal justice reform, we've been grappling with this issue a lot here in Nevada, especially when it comes to our immigrant communities. What would you like to see change on the federal government side in terms of the relationship with local law enforcement, whether or not local law enforcement should continue to cooperate with ICE in enforcing federal immigration law, and prioritizing or targeting people for deportation?
For years, I had the responsibility of protecting the safety of the community. I ran as a mayor, I was in charge of a local police department. And what this president is doing is undermining the safety and security of local communities by bringing local law enforcement into doing immigration enforcement. And what that's creating is an environment in which immigrant communities do not come forward to report crimes to police, to report times they've been victimized. Even we're seeing challenges with people bringing issues of domestic violence and other crises forward. That creates a very bad environment for safety. It affects the safety of an entire community because getting information on crimes helps us all be safer. There was a reason why we have a federal immigration enforcement that's independent and separate from police. When you start merging and combining those things, you create a fear-based environment where you don't have the kind of cooperation you need to create safety. It is very important that we stop what we're seeing in our communities right now, which is making us less safe, less unified, less strong, and less able to do what we should be doing in this country, which is making sure that every neighborhood, every community is vibrant, there's trust, and they're creating an environment where we can be successful as a whole. All right, thank you.
Thank you.